Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Welcome to the 104th session of the Virtual Book Club. I'm Benita Lee, and I'm joined by guests every week. Some even read the book. Book Club started in October 2020 during the global pandemic, and each week I would hold a Zoom meeting to read and discuss topics that we found in the great books of our time. Book club's not mandatory. The guests drop in if their schedule allows. So I'm grateful to have guests every week and to not ever have had to go live on my own. With me, I have Hal Guerin, I have Robert Barry, and I have Chris Postel. So it's kind of like the OG of the book club here. How you guys all doing?
I had a shocking experience this week. I
Okay.
saw something that I didn't quite recognize, and it really shocked me to my core. Uh,
Whoa.
yeah. I was in Detroit, Michigan, and it was cold outside, and I decided to go for a walk. And I saw this white substance on the ground that I'm just not accustomed to seeing, and it was just a complete and utter shock. And I don't
Wow.
know if I can get over the sight of it.
Like, are we just talking about snow? Because that's the normal thing up here, okay, Rob?
It shocked me. It threw me for a loop. I didn't understand what was happening.
Oh, jeez.
But did
And
you
what?
take full advantage of that and throw some snowballs and make a snowman and
Yeah.
maybe some snow angels? Did you get the opportunity to?
I did not, but you know what was interesting? The culture up there is a whole lot different because I was the only one that seemed out of place and shocked by it. So I guess they had their own culture code up there.
Right. Like, how would you describe the culture in Detroit? Hi, Marianne.
Hi.
Oh, I
Uh,
mean, the people were very friendly, and it was a lot of fun, and the people were very friendly. Um, I think I was the only odd man out staring at the snow as if it were some kind of distant stranger.
Yeah, I mean, you're from the South, so you wouldn't get to see the white substance on the ground very often in
It
Detroit.
might be a different white substance, but it wasn't
Right.
snow.
Hola, hola, David. Hola, Sam. Hi, everyone. Did you know, like, every week there's a potential that I could just show up alone. And this has not happened for I don't know for a whole year at least, ever since we went live. So I'm grateful for you guys. We've got Marianne from Kuwait, Hal from Florida. Rob is back in Texas now, right?
Who knows where I
Who
am?
knows? He was in Detroit this morning. Chris Postel from Alberta, and myself, also from Alberta. Oh, that little beep means someone else has joined us. Who are you gonna guess? Who are you gonna guess?
Vern.
Jose. Oh, Vern. Okay.
Burn.
Vern. Hi, Vern. This is the
Hello,
third.
hello.
This is the third Thursday of the month. Oh, we joined by Ellie.
Absolutely. Glad to be here.
Glad to have you. Everyone's getting to see each other for the first time in a while. Chris hasn't been. Chris has been busy. Like, talk about like, wow.
Yeah, I've
Like,
been a bad friend. I haven't been on book club for a while, so I do apologize for that. But
oh yeah. Well, I'll
it
forgive
is,
you because there's been some like mergers and acquisitions going on.
it's been a little crazy, but yeah, it's
I'll
good.
forgive
So
you.
I'm happy to be here.
I'm not so forgiving. I missed you, man.
M&A always gets in the way.
Right. Well, before we went live, Rob and Chris were having a romantical moment. So, and Hal and I were doing. Hal was doing hand hearts, and I was doing finger hearts. I bet you wouldn't expect that kind of stuff, would you?
No,
That's what happens at the book club. We have a lot of fun.
Who says auditors and compliance folks don't have a lot of love to give?
Right? Right?
And
Exactly.
sometimes we read the book.
Mhm.
Just sometimes.
And if you don't like the love, we'll write you up about it.
We tell our true feelings here. Like it's a circle of love, a trust nest. So we're reading the book Culture Code, and we've learned in 3 parts what it takes to get a team to what the ingredients are. And like, I don't know, would you guys agree, like, to get highly successful groups working together, you need to build safety, share vulnerabilities, and establish purpose. That's what the book is saying.
All before noon.
Right. Good point. It's not an overnight process.
No.
Mm-mm.
Good point.
I'm a little surprised that, I hadn't thought about this until you just said that, because that's the order of the book. So it just struck me now that purpose didn't come first.
No,
I
it
was thinking
didn't.
that too. Yeah.
I didn't think about it reading it. And then when you just laid it out in the order, safety is important, vulnerability is important, but it seems to start with purpose.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Start
That's
with
insightful,
why.
actually. Mhm.
Well, maybe it doesn't start with why, because like I know that Simon Sinek says that, but like in the heart of business, like you don't really get down to purpose until you get to know everybody and get vulnerable and build safety, right? Because nobody's going to talk. You can't build safety. No one's going to talk to you. They're all afraid of you until you establish the safety and share some vulnerability. And then that's when the purpose comes in.
I think we're at a shifting of that. And I think we live in kind of 2 different worlds, because if you look at the younger generation, they want to know the why before even the interview. So that's really
Right.
important to them. Whereas I think some of us, we were just happy to have a job initially, and then we figured out the why. And if the why didn't fit our why, then we just left. But I think the younger generation is a little bit smarter when it comes to that, because if you start with the why, I think you're more apt to give it your all and stay longer, possibly, maybe, if there's alignment.
Right. Well, I hate to pick on Chris, but he's like the only millennial here.
The oldest, youngest.
Yeah.
I suppose I would be, yeah.
Yeah. Like, I saw a poll actually, so it can't be trusted upon on LinkedIn. But in this poll, this person asked, like, which generation were you? And then it was like 46% of us on LinkedIn are millennials.
Ooh.
That makes sense.
Mm-hmm. So a whole half of us almost.
Because what's the Gen X? It's like 70 or 69 or 70 or something along those lines.
So
82 or something like that, and then 83,
Gen X
84.
goes 65 to 70 something, and then
Okay.
76 I think was the cutoff.
And then they're calling that Xennials, right? Aren't they? That kind of in between before millennials?
Oh, is that right? I didn't know that.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't know,
something
something like that. Yeah.
yeah.
It's totally crazy. I think it changes every year to suit some whatever people need to define it as at the time. So,
Right.
in that ballpark. So,
but yeah, I mean, I guess that's why you went into business for yourself, right? So that you could drive your own culture.
yeah, I would agree with that. I just got tired of the old, just treating people like trash. So we figured we would just do it differently and treat people better. It's funny, when I started this with my partner there back in December 2017, I was making the statements that we're just going to do things better, pay people better. find operate with less margins and kind of optimize our processes and stuff up the top end, so we have less of a margin to worry about. We require less overhead. And some people laughed at me and said, "Yeah, you'll never make any time, blah, 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 blah. It's not how business is done." I said, well, I guess time will tell, right? I got time on my side. So, I can make that gamble and take that risk. So
there you go. For any of those people,
time will still tell, and I guess we'll find out. But I'm still trudging forward. So as of this point, it's paying off as of now. So
it's as though you read the book. In the book, it says, paint what it looks like now, and then what you want, and then paint what you want it to look like in the future to establish the purpose.
Okay.
Benita asked,
Disclosure, it's on my bedstand next to me, and I have not read it as of yet, so I do apologize for that.
Thanks for the honesty. Vern, did you have something to say?
I was thinking you listed a number of should I say attributes about trust and so forth and so on. I would venture to say that everybody has a very different priority about what is first and what is second. I know that when you have a job, sometimes you stick with a job that you don't like. Why? Because you need the money to make sure that you can keep a roof over your head, clothes on your back, and food in your stomach. Even though you don't like the job, it's like, but I need the job because I need the income. So I'll suck it up until I can figure out something later.
Yep.
What a great
I've
point.
been in that kind of situation.
Well, when it comes to these three things, let's all choose like what we think matters the most. Audience members, you do this too.
So I think this kind of links into the Maslow's hierarchy, right? Where safety, security is gonna be very, very important. And I do agree with you, Vern, that if you don't have safety or security, purpose at that stage is not on the high priority list. But if you have options, you have security in yourself, then purpose will become more of a priority. So I think it has a lot to do with the individual, their security, their options, their opportunities, as well as the culture of the organization that defines the priority. So I don't think it's one priority for all. And I think obviously with kind of mental health being a priority, culture is definitely going to take precedent over anything else.
Yeah, so self-actualization is kind of irrelevant when you don't have food to eat or a place to live.
Right.
Exactly.
Oh, hell. Yeah.
Well, and I think historically, if you take it all the way back, I think it was a combination of everything. So if you looked at, let's just say, caveman days, right? You would send out.
I remember them well, by the way.
I'm just saying, let's look at nature, right? If you think you would send out the best person who could actually go out and hunt and kill to go hunt and kill, and the people who were better served, getting firewood or preparing the fire or whatever, they would do those jobs. And they did it because of two things. One, they had to eat and needed to eat, but two, that's what they were good at. And that was their purpose for that particular time frame, because the bigger purpose was actually feeding the village, the family, and making sure that everything kind of went smoothly. And I think everything went off the rails when we made everything so comfortable for people. Because now, think about it. Everybody's talking about now, I've got to find my purpose. I think back in the day, the purpose was to just live. And if you didn't do your part, somebody was going to die. So it was dire, which is why nowadays we are so crazy, because the basics on Maslow's hierarchy of needs are primarily taken care of. And if you get into a situation where they are slipping a little bit and you run the risk of them not being taken care of, 9 times out of 10, especially depending on your demographic background, you can find some help through government stimulus or something else. So we kind of reduce the risk of losing out on that bottom rung of Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Good point.
Great point.
I've given everybody something to think about.
Honestly, I honestly feel that that's, we're going back to talking about the millennials and stuff. That's my generations. Like I grew up being told, yeah, don't accept anything that's less than what you believe you deserve, and which is right to an extent, but we're taking it out of context to the point that we need to understand that we need to put our hard work in to get to that point where we can say no and say no, and like your point around making sure that we've got our needs taken care of. So yeah, maybe you're doing a job you don't like, but yeah, you got to do a side hustle. So you got to put that extra effort in to get to that point, right? So you got to build that character up. You got to build those contacts. You got to kind of work your Fridays, work your Saturdays, work your Sundays. But everybody's taking that out of context, saying, "Well, I don't need that. It doesn't pay me enough. I'm not going to work there," right? And so again, that's kind of what we're pushing the narrative, right? So it totally makes sense.
Well, it also depends on I think it also depends. Then also you filter in priorities. The old frustration about the people in the brand new Lincoln Navigator are the ones in line of the food bank to collect the food, and stuff like that. So that priorities get mixed up in the simplified view of a Maslow view of the world. Because you're trying to live in all 5 levels of the pyramid at the same time.
Well, and the stats also bear out, though, because right now you have more millennials that are living at home than any other generation before them at extended ages. But then you also see, I was doing a presentation just the other day, and we dug up some stats where the number of people who have been at their current job for more than 10 years is decreased to record low levels. And it's real interesting when you break it down. What I'm looking for now is a breakdown by age group, but I have a breakdown by gender. And men are still staying at jobs longer than women, but both demographics are down in the amount of time that they're staying at jobs. Now, I'm not saying that's good or bad. It's just an observation. And some of that is people aren't happy, and people understand that they want and or quote unquote deserve, whether that's fake deserve or real deserve, right? Better.
Well, that's interesting, Rob. Sorry that you say that, because there was a recent post about organizations should have career maps up to 10 years. And my thought was, people are not interested in 10 years. They want to know in the immediate, let's say, few years, where is my career map going to be? This audience no longer exists to have a 10-year career map.
Yeah.
The answer to the interview question, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Either in your job or not here.
Yeah.
It's that simple, right? If you want to be truthful about it, that's the mentality.
Yeah, but there is another side to that too, though, because if you look back at some of the top jobs for last year, 10 years ago, many of them didn't even exist. So think about how many new jobs are going to be created. So there is some truthfulness to that and some reality to it. Yeah, there is some truthfulness to that.
Well, even you look at, we talk about eliminating jobs, right? And the big praise 10 years ago was when we had self-checkouts come out and everybody said we're going to lose all these jobs. Well, every place I've ever visited in the last year, like a Walmart or a McDonald's or a Home Depot, what have you, a Lowe's, they all got these self-checkouts, and every single one of them was screaming for employees that still have work to do in that store. There's just less cashier positions. Someone needs to service those self-checkout machines. Someone needs to make sure that the items are getting to and from those aspects, like the robots that stand on the end of the line that people are saying are taking away jobs. Nobody wants to work those jobs, stand there for 9 hours a day and hurt their back and ruin their bodies. So, but someone needs to service those robots. Someone needs to program those robots with the computer technology. Like there's a lot of stuff that the job market is shifting. It's not eliminating. There's always going to be work for people. Like the people aren't being eliminated.
Yeah, I said something like that on LinkedIn recently, and many people agree. But you have the one or two trolls that come out from under the bridge, and what I said was AI is not going to replace people. People who know how to use AI are going to replace people. And to your point, yes, some people are going to lose jobs, but then other jobs are going to be created. Now, here's where the culture in specific organizations is really going to come into play, though, because the corporations that take it upon themselves to invest in their employees by upskilling their employees, spending money on training, those will be the ones in my prediction that actually succeed and go far. I was actually interviewing someone last week on one of my podcasts. I can't remember which one now. But anyway, she said, and we were talking about artificial intelligence. And when she said this, it really made me think. She said, the cost of acquiring some sort of artificial intelligence is not going to be the issue, because the cost is not going to be that much. It is the cost to actually train and upskill your employees, your current employees, or the cost of hiring new people because you failed to train your employees. That is going to be where the real cost lies. So I think the companies that have a culture of training and development of their current employees will be the ones that actually outpace and outlast the others.
Yeah, I was just on a call, Rob, with a bunch of chief audit executives, people who lead internal audit functions, and the question came up about Chat GPT, and the question was really, should we be worried about it, as my people want to start using it to write audit reports, and others besides me, but I was trying to flip it on the side and say, embrace it.
Yes.
Don't fight it. Embrace it. Figure out how to leverage the technology and get your staff to figure out how to use it. Don't have it replace what you do. Just help it make you better and more efficient.
Yep.
But it takes a mind shift to do that. And it's to that point of, it's those that know how to leverage technology and where it's going are the ones that are going to have jobs, and the ones who are fearful of it are the ones who are going to lose their at least what they're doing now.
Yeah. Well, and had the troll under the bridge. Yeah, but to your point, that is exactly what I've been saying, especially in our profession, is we're not going to use it to write our reports for us. We're going to use it to help us write better reports. Look out for my course coming soon, how to use Chat GPT if you're an auditor. Seriously, I mean, I said that in a joking way, but I am seriously developing a course. I don't understand the threat by it. I have used it. I've come to a point where I've learned to actually master it to help me create better and faster content. Does it write content for me? No. But you best believe it gives me some good ideas.
It's ideation. Yeah.
I was using an example on this call, and while we were doing it, I put into Chat GPT something like, help me start a fiction book about a murder in a small town America. Yep. And within seconds, I hit stop generating. It cranked out 3 paragraphs as the start of a fiction novel that would be better than I would ever write. Would I use it? No. Would I be able to leverage it instead of sitting there and staring at a screen trying to figure out where to start? Why not?
Yeah. So I tell you what, in that same vein, here's what I did. I asked it something like, will Chat GPT replace humans or something like that? If I have time, I'll see if I can find it, because you know how it keeps your history. And it actually said, no, that it is here to help augment what it is that we do already. And I'm gonna see if I can find exactly what it said.
I suspect that Chat GPT is kind of like the internet. It's not going, you can't fight the internet. This is just a way that things are going. Your best bet is to go on and embrace it and figure out how to use it, because it is not going away. Nobody's going to say, well, this internet thing, this is a passing phase. No. This is how it is.
I was using to that, Vern. I was trying to find out when the Institute of Internal Auditors first published the standards, these infamous standards that internal auditors are supposed to be following. And I was doing a Google search, and I was like churning and burning, looking at links, and I couldn't find the answer. So I said, you know what? Let me just ask Chat GPT. And within seconds, it gave me the answer I was looking for. Exactly. And they were first published in 1978. And it went on to say that they were last revised in 2017. And it's like, I got it. I got the answer I was looking for faster than doing a Google search.
So I tell you, I just typed into ChatGPT. Since I couldn't find the first one I did, I said, will ChatGPT replace people? And here's what it had to say. It said, as an AI language model, I am not capable of replacing people. While I am designed to stimulate conversations and generate text, I do not possess consciousness or the ability to make decisions on my own. I am a tool created to assist people in various tasks, such as generating text, answering questions, and providing information. And it said a little bit more, but that's kind of the basics of what it said. Now,
did it end with "for now"?
That's what I was just thinking. Skynet is coming, right?
You know, read the next science fiction book to find out where it'll really end up.
Have you seen the poems that it can write? Like, oh my gosh.
No, have you not seen the video that I made where I had ChatGPT write a poem, and then I did a video with an AI character reciting the poem that ChatGPT wrote?
Oh, nice. Which one was that? What was the topic? What was the poem about?
You know what? It was during my Good Morning LinkedIn show with Doreen. We were talking about AI one Saturday morning.
I missed it. I'll watch that one.
I sound like I'm just plugging everything I do today. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to.
No.
Yeah, you are. It's all right.
I'm not doing it on purpose.
Well, we got to plug everything else.
But it's okay, Rob.
The thing is, Rob, you do so much. We don't have time for that. You know, this would be a 4-hour show as opposed to an hour.
Can ChatGPT can it replace Rob? I'm sorry,
I think it already has. I'm not sure it's actually Rob. I think Rob's still, playing in the snow in Detroit. They're trying to figure out what it is. Ask ChatGPT, what's this white stuff on the ground in Detroit?
Skynet is coming.
For the ChatGPT, though, it does actually drive more of a systems thinking concept. It's actually forcing people to really frame the problem as to what they're actually looking to solve. Instead of just saying, hey, look, I need an answer. Like, I'm the last generation, likely. I'm not saying this for sure. I'm likely the last generation that did research projects in school and went to the library and pulled up a Britannica encyclopedia to got an answer that was 30 years old, right? So again, now the answers are so vague, so broad, so expansive that it's really forcing people to define the actual problem they're looking to solve. And I think that's a good thing.
What a
Chris,
great
what's an encyclopedia?
Yeah, my parents got a stack of them in their house still. Actually,
it's your Funkin' Wagnalls.
My grandmother still has a Funkin' Wagnalls set.
Oh man, keep
next to her yellow pages, no doubt.
No doubt.
Hey Rob, I did ask ChatGPT. I said, what is the white stuff on the ground in Detroit that Rob is seeing? It says, as an AI language model, I don't have access to real-time information about the current weather or environmental conditions in Detroit. However, if Rob is seeing white stuff on the ground, it is possible he is observing snow. So if you ever need help, ChatGPT is there to tell you what you're experiencing.
The best piece of advice I've ever gotten is don't eat yellow snow.
And hopefully,
I mean, that's pretty basic for Chris and I, but when we think about it, it's like, wow, yeah, that is good advice, man.
Icicles off roofs is another one I try to stop my kids from doing. They look fun. We did it as a kid, but as I grew up and you realize all the icicles, you take them, treat them like popsicles and just snap them off, right? Because they'll be long, right? You just take them and eat them. But then as I grew up and, started doing roofing and everything else and been on roofs, you see how much debris and bird residue and everything else is on a roof that runs off into the gutter and that water freezes. It's like, guys, for my kids, I'm like, let's not eat those icicles. Let's not do that. That's a problem. So.
All right, Benita, what does this have to do with the book?
Absolutely nothing.
Other than it's a blast.
Except that, I mean, this is the culture, right? This is the culture that Book Club has built is we get into conversations about things and then, we go back and forth, build safety.
We're exactly. I was just
share vulnerability.
We're building safety, how?
Where is
and vulnerability? Because we're talking about
establishing purpose. Like, what is the purpose of Book Club? And for me, it is.
I'm going to ask
ChatGPT. Yeah, what? We'll ask GPT.
where is the culture as it relates to Maslow's hierarchy of needs?
Yeah.
Because with that's changed now. I put trust really high because I want to know that I can trust you. Because if I can't trust you, everything else is out the door.
Yeah.
It's not. It's not. Don't trust you.
So
No.
is trust for
So
you
trust is really high.
in, is it in the building safety part, or is it in the sharing vulnerability, or does it span both?
Yes.
Yeah. So here's what I liked about listening to the book. The three pillars that it mentions, I think that we are to a point where they are so interconnected. Because I like that Marianne brought up Maslow, because I was thinking the same thing. And that's why I said earlier on, I think right now we live in a society where, for the most part, and for most people on the planet, depending on where you live, but even in quote unquote third world countries, there's still a certain level where the base level stuff is taken care of. It may not be the same as it is over here in some other countries, and that's why I think we've been lost for a little while. I think that's why we've seen a lot of people that we would call spoiled. And I think that's why a lot of the quote unquote Karens have popped up, because you no longer fear as much for your safety as you used to.
Absolutely.
Well, for us in the West anyway, yeah. I'm grateful for that. Like how grateful are we that we have these, first world problems? Um So, Culture Code, are you glad you read it? Are you sad you wasted the time? Are you proud to put it on your bookshelf? Are you wondering if you should read it?
I think we talked about this last week. It was an enjoyable listen, but maybe as a read, I think I heard you guys say that it was a little too drawn out with the stories. But as listening to the stories, it was real enjoyable.
Right.
That is the
Yeah, I
difference
mean, I would
between
say,
reading it and listening to it. Because when you're listening to it, the person who is narrating it brings in certain inflections that really makes the entire narrative more interesting to listen to. Whereas if you're reading it, you're not feeling it that way. So that's one of the reasons I've found that Audible and I are going to be good friends for a while now.
yeah, I've been watching a 30 slowly working my way through a 36 video set. It's 18 hours of content on the founding fathers. And I would tell you, if I tried to read it, I would never finish. But I'm learning a lot, and it is exactly the professor, the history professors that's doing it, gives life to the stories as he's telling you, and so it's much more engaging than if I
Absolutely.
were to ever to try and read it.
Mm-mm.
So I get your point.
Yeah. So
I mean, I judge a book at the end, even though I've kind of made some of the comments, about it. I found it a little tedious in reading it. The old school, as I've talked about before. How many pages do I dog ear, and how much of the yellow highlighter got used? And there are a lot of really good nuggets in this book. I've posted about a few of them, but I'm reading faster than I can post. So, I got a bunch of future posts about this book that'll come at some point in time on LinkedIn.
Right.
I'm really excited about our next book, Ship War. So the funny thing is, we did Trade War on book club, virtual book club, and we had the author come in, Lorianne LaRocco. Uh, I wonder if Chris Miller would be interested in coming to Chip War.
Wow, that would be amazing to have the author and
It's
debate and discuss.
well, yeah, like there's really nothing to debate. It's like as
Or
much as
philosophize, I should say.
as much as it's called Chip War, the fight for the world's most critical technology. So it's about semiconductor chips
Okay.
and like micro transistors and how how Silicon Valley started, and it comes from like a history, poli sci, supply chain business kind of lens.
Yeah, I mean, so far, I mean, I'm about 70% through the book thus far.
Oh, wow.
And it, basically it takes you through the history and the geo or the global ebb and flow of the chip industry. So you get to read some stuff about Gordon Moore and Moore's law about the doubling of processing power over 18 months and the companies trying to keep up with that. And Andy Grove and all of the names that you would recognize and names you would not recognize, but how the company dynamics and the geopolitics of things had the ebb and flow from the US really dominating and things shifting to other countries as you get into the period where Japan rose and then China or Taiwan rose in its ability.
Well, and
then
why, right?
Some of the things in the I'm sorry, just to finish the thought real quick. So is in the mid 2010s when China started realizing that it needed to start to really demonstrate power, because as the book talks about, it's probably more important than oil on the global stage is semiconductor and chip technology right now. We rely on it more than we do oil.
Yeah, spoiler alert. I really like how it goes through the explanation, because I think that we just I'm guilty of this myself, is that we just take headlines and we think we know like about the semiconductor chip situation, and like why there is like a power struggle between China and the US, and why there's these export sanctions, and why like the US is really cracking down on export controls of this technology being sent to China, and then maybe even like why the US is so intent upon classifying there to be forced labor in China. You know what I mean? It really makes you think about all that, and not just in isolation of one story, but the whole picture. So I think there's a lot of systems thinking that is required too in this type of a book, where you're piecing together pieces of information that you might have not thought had a connection. So I'm really excited. But I'm on a chapter that is called Supply Chain Statecraft. So it's getting really exciting for me.
Information is the new currency. And information is derived from microprocessors and chips, which has evolved to where we are with AI. So how we're going to go back and forth between the two in the weeks coming is going to be interesting.
Wow, yeah.
I thought we were talking about Pringles or Ruffles.
No, but like Vern just made a great job of like piecing it all together. Like, yeah.
The quote that I'm hearing quite frequently now, living in Kuwait, is AI is the new oil.
Yep.
Ooh, now that's big.
Whoa.
Well, and I talk about AI a lot because I think harnessing the power that it offers and using it for good and not evil is a really good thing. Using it to augment what we do and make our lives easier until it becomes sentient and then takes over. And then,
But that's true, like not AI specifically, but like what drives the AI is these semiconductor chips.
Yep. Yeah, which is what they were saying is one reason that the price of new cars had gone up because there was a chip shortage.
That's right.
Wow.
Indeed.
I even kind of wish, and maybe Hal can let me know without like going into much depth, if it talks about the critical minerals that you need, like not just the chips, but like how you make the chips.
Not in great detail.
Okay.
But it does impress upon the fact that if the chip industry has evolved to the point where the technology that's needed to produce the chips because of the miniaturization of the technology is a multi-billion-dollar investment. And so the barriers to entry, typical capitalism, the barriers to entry are so steep that it is going to be if not a monopoly, a short list of a world oligopoly of people who, and when you think about that, then you think about supply chains and you think about the ability for things to get easily disrupted with our dependence on, things we don't even think about that rely on chips to be able to function. I mean, our cell phones have different specialized chips to be able to have a camera and be able to store information and be able to use the cellular network and be able to leverage
audio and sound
Wi-Fi and audio. All of that stuff is crammed in there, and each chip is specialized to be able to do its unique thing.
Yeah.
And any one of those specialties, if it gets disrupted, and the world all needs to upgrade its cell phones on a 2 to 3 year refresh cycle for the most part, we're at the mercy. There's no fallback mechanism when your phone dies. If
I don't like that.
You can't get gas for your car, they're very inconvenient, but there are fallback mechanisms.
I like the 10-year cycle, the 15-year cycle better. Like, whoever made up the rule that we should be all upgrading every 2 years or 1 year? It's
called planned obsolescence.
Battery won't last.
Yeah.
On a, you'll go from one charge a day to multiple charges a day to having your phone plugged in permanently by the time you get to 3 years.
They just don't make those fridges like they did anymore, Hal.
Well, here's where it really becomes interesting though, because the materials, the minerals that go into making most of the chips, a lot of it is mined out of Africa. And when you look at what's happening in Africa, China has invested a lot in improving the infrastructure in Africa.
That's right.
So now, what does that mean? That means that the Chinese government and the Chinese economy kind of has a foothold, as Hal was just mentioning, that monopoly or oligopoly or whatever it ends up becoming. Now you combine that with the fact that, well, over here, we can't seem to discern the difference between a balloon and a UFO. I think it makes for an interesting time coming up. Now, I think only a few people may have gotten what I just said there. So take all of that into consideration, and that leads you to think, oh man, this is going to be serious in the next 3 to 7 years.
Okay, so quick question for you all then. What would be the best way to leverage the incoming AI technology to improve and increase our positive cultures within our corporations?
Well, coming from what Robert just said about like African minerals, I'm like thinking like this is a huge thing in like social responsibility. Like we now have the opportunity to give back to the Africans what they have that we need, and like ink contracts that are mutually beneficial. So like I hope that that's going on, and we're not just like pillaging like we did with oil, right? Because like there's these cases in social responsibility that talked about Shell and BP in Africa, and that wasn't cool. And it just worsened corruption. But if you're able to pay back to the people and the workers and the communities that you operate in, then hopefully we'll see some good come out of that. So there's an opportunity.
Yeah. Here's what I think. I think we use AI to work smarter. No matter what industry you're in, there's an opportunity. And I think once we start working smarter, we don't replace people's time with BS just so that they can be at jobs for 40 hours a week, 8 hours a day. I think we start paying people to do a job, not to sit and fill seats. That allows them a little bit more freedom. So if you go to work one day and you do all that you can do for one day and it only takes you 4 hours, but yet that one day, but yet you still get the job done at the end of the week and AI has helped you to do that, then that should be okay. So I'll give you a couple of examples. I said I interviewed somebody last week on one of my podcasts. They have a solution that helps with auditing. And what they do is their software uses artificial intelligence to run through an entire population of transactions to look for anomalies and things that might look, just off. So now, if you use that effectively, you've eliminated a whole lot of time. You've also saved a bunch of money, so why not use it effectively? So for example, if I'm running out of content ideas, I'll go into Chat GPT and say, hey, what are some content ideas for ABC? And it'll give me a bunch of titles. And now my brain is sparked. So it cuts down my time dramatically. My fear is what people will do is they'll look at that efficiency and they'll say, we still want your butt in a seat for 40 hours a week. You paying me to do a job, not to fill a seat. If I can do my job more efficiently using AI, I'm a happier employee because I'm still getting the job done for you. I'm still making decent money. And now I actually have time for friends, family, or whatever else is important to me.
I think also to your question, Chris, about culture and the intersection with AI. The cultures that embrace empowering employees, embrace the fact that we at the top aren't the ones who come up with all the bright ideas, and the old skunks work idea, of just giving groups of people the challenge of how can we leverage AI within the organization in any way possible to make us a better company and make this a better workplace, and get some people with good brains to just hash it out, and they'll be engaged. That's the embracing culture, the culture that's fearful of it, or no, let everybody just get their jobs done. If we're going to do anything based on ideas, it's going to come from the top down. So I think taking that question and kind of trying to intersect the ideas with creating successful work groups and good cultures. I mean, that's and you don't have to, as much as I would profess that groups like that would be better getting together in person, doesn't mean you can't do it through electronic means with people working remote. But I think people have got to engage and feel like whatever they come up with is going to be valued.
It's interesting when we start thinking about what our priorities are, because as important as the internet, computers, and chat GBT and so forth, all of that will not be worth a damn if we don't have the power to run it.
Right.
Have you ever been in a situation where the power went out in your neighborhood? How good was your computer?
And I mean, yeah, that has to do with energy and fuel, but also people, right?
Yeah, people are not going to be replaced.
Yeah, no. People are the ones that think, do, act. I mean, they use all these things as tools, but
that's all they are. You're right. Tools.
Mm-hmm. You raise a great point, Vern, because not only do you have, the reliance on technology creates very glaring single points of failure. The power it does take to run the processing systems of the computers to be able to do something as intensive as AI and other things like that is very depletive to the environment. Mm-hmm. It is counter to some of the ESG type trends. And that to me, that is one of the huge elephants in the room on the topic. It is very, very mining these materials, these rare earth materials, the power it takes and the emissions that get created to be able to run the technologies, the cooling that needs to be used to be able to keep those computers at a temperature level that they need to be at is very depletive to the environment. And yet there's no stopping the trajectory we're on as we continue to do some nasty stuff to the planet we call home.
Yep.
I just want to use all my appliances for like more than 10 years again. Cars.
I think you're going to need something called an ice box to be able to do that.
Ooh. Go way back, Peabody. Ice box.
Peabody, eh?
I'm still waiting for my milk to get delivered in the box at the front door. They stopped a long time ago.
It's all about the bag milk, Al.
Does this still exist?
In Ontario, yeah, it still does. Yeah, they still have some. Not all over the place, but yeah. I remember as a child having bag milk.
Like, what were you looking at, Chris? There's about 6 minutes left. What were you looking to hear when you asked that question?
Honestly, just driving it back to the culture code. Just trying to think about that corporate culture and where we're going with AI and how we can maybe get some nuggets for people, including myself, with always looking for opportunities how to leverage the new technologies coming out and hearing different thoughts and opinions on how people are doing things. So,
right. I think it's certainly going to force culture to take center stage, whereas I think historically it has not, because it came down to technical capability where many organizations turned a blind eye to those who did not conform to culture, to a value system that was shared. And I think it was historically accepted in many organizations to not do what is good for the team at the expense of delivery. And I think now AI will put all of that into question. And as we move forward with new generations that are no longer accepting of what was, what previous generations accepted, I think it's the whole dynamics are changing.
Yeah.
It'll be very interesting to watch this play out.
Yeah, I'm gonna in our last couple of seconds here, our minutes, I'm gonna reach and go back to the book and try to link a couple of things and something that I really liked, and it's on page 220 of the book itself. It says there is a tendency to value the idea as opposed to the person or the team of people, but that's not accurate. Give a good idea to a mediocre team and they'll find a way to screw it up. Give a mediocre idea to a good team and they'll find a way to make it better. The goal needs to be to get the team right, then get them moving in the right direction, and get them to see where they are making mistakes and where they are succeeding. Right. I think that kind of, as we embrace new ideas, if we're going to embrace new ideas and have the culture to do that, it isn't about the idea, because as I says, good ideas, given to a mediocre or bad team is not going to produce much. Average ideas given to a good team can produce wonderful things.
It's how skillful you're able to play your hand when you're dealt the cards. You can be given a bad hand, but if you know how to play, you can still come out a winner, even though the cards you were dealt were substandard, let's say.
Right. So like culture and collaboration are the new like I'm happy that we're not going that way of individualism anymore. I'm happy that it's not that one hero. It's like how well you can work in a team, how well you get along with others.
That's right.
Yeah, I like the way that it's going.
Stay tuned.
It still all comes down to people.
Right.
And for us to be able to move forward the way we want to move forward, it is going to depend on our ability to create relationships with the people around us in order to get from where we are to where we want to go. Because if we can't create the kind of relationships, you can have some very smart people in the same room, but if they don't like one another, they don't trust one another, they can't develop relationships, you could be given, it's like being dealt the best hand and not being able to play it.
Right.
So true.
Good point.
So true, Vernon.
People in relationships is still what it comes down to.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And, we can sprinkle in communication if you want to, the ability to communicate, but the relationships, the reason that this book club functions as well as it does, and the reason we enjoy, being here is because of our relationships. And we enjoy listening and learning from each other, but it's about the relationships and the trust and the respect in terms of being able to listen to some very diverse opinions and backgrounds, whether we go from Rob to Chris, or from Chris to Marianne, or from Marianne to Benita, and Benita to Hal.
Yeah, the whole Brady bunch.
In so many different ways, but we're coming together with some interesting ideas that everyone is taking advantage of and walking away better for it.
There you have it, guys.
Well, if I don't like your idea, can I say Marcia? Had to get a Brady Bunch thing in there.
I mean,
I just noticed you put sometimes in your name.
Sometimes.
Yeah, I was Vernon Lee for a while, but I'm looking to go back to Webb.
Yeah, you're not going to take my last name anymore? Oh yeah, where's Bobby? Bobby, my cousin Bobby. Yeah. Leslie did say, and Avel did say that they wouldn't be able to make it today, but they don't realize that it's all good. This is on a, it's not mandatory. It's whenever you have the time. The best thing is that like when you don't show up to book club, I know you have work. So awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. We're gonna call it quits on week 104. And have a great week. We'll see you next week when we start Chip War. I totally am a poet.